Welcome back, partner! Last time we began our series of beating every boss in Paper Mario 64 with only one partner. The prologue went well for most, some better than others though. And in this video, we're going to begin Chapter 1. There are 4 mandatory enemy fights and 2 bosses to look at. The first of these mandatory enemy fights is against the Fuzzies. Every partner can beat these enemies. Fuzzies are grounded enemies with only 3 HP and 0 defense. And because they have an attack power of only 1, a single guard means they do absolutely nothing to Mario. This then brings us to the many enemies in the Kooper Bros fortress that are required to fight. In one room, you're trapped with 3 different enemy loadouts of Koopa Troopas and Paratroopas. Much like the Magic Koopa in the prologue, every partner except for Bombette and Kooper can win this. Unfortunately, we also have to add Lady Bow onto this list. Koopa Troopas all have 1 defense point unless they're flipped over like a head bonk or say Mario's jump. And Smack does only 1 damage per hit, so Lady Bow unfortunately cannot beat this enemy. The 5 other partners however can do this no problem. Goombario's head bonk not only knocks Koopa Troopas down but also flips them over. Parakarry may not be able to ground enemies, but this Skydad does 1 damage to enemies with defense. For him, the damage hits all at once, so it's 2 damage in 1 hit. It's the same case for Roof Sushi and Lackluster, but it's on a grander scale because they do 2 damage in 1 hit, not just 1. And finally, Watts straight up ignores all defense. Focusing on the Koopa Troopas and Bob-ombs after you rescue Bombette though, every partner except for Bow can win this. What's required here is having an attack power of at least 2. Failing that, Goombario is lucky enough to have an exception here because his head bonk flips enemies over. Most notably though, every enemy here is on the ground, so Kooper and Bombette can actually win. And at the end of the Koopa Bros fortress, we have the Bill Blasters. The simplest way to put this is that partners must be able to do at least 2 damage per hit to win. If a partner cannot do that, they cannot even hurt the Bill Blasters, and as a result, this fight becomes impossible for them. For both Goombario and Bow, this fight is impossible, because their basic attacks only do 1 damage, and they only had that 1 attack to use. Meanwhile, Kooper's Power Shell not only does damage to Bill Blasters, but they also win a KO the Bullet Bills themselves. Bombette's bomb is instant death to Bill Blasters, and even without FP, Bombette's Body Slam does 1 damage per hit. The exact same thing can be said also for Parakarry. Sushi and Lackluster are a little bit different though. Sushi's Belly Flop does 2 damage per hit. Meanwhile, Squirt is still 1 KO. And Lackluster's Spiny Flip does 2 damage per hit, but he lacks a very meaty, strong hit to do damage with, like say Squirt or Shell Shot. However, much like Kooper, he does have an area of effect attack in Spiny Surge instead. So Bullet Bills are not threatening to him at all. Bosses are an interesting beast in this challenge. Some partners have no issues with them at all. Other partners cannot do anything because of how they're designed. And Trojan Bowser and the Koopa Bros are one heck of a pairing. Let's read out the weak ones first. Goombario and Bow cannot do this boss fight at all. Trojan Bowser has 1 defense point, and as a result, they cannot harm him. This doesn't really matter for the Koopa Bros because they can't reach the Koopa Bros, but what really should be interesting to note is that the Koopa Bros have 1 defense when they're parked on top of each other. Like, if you're wondering why Mario's jump would not hurt the Koopa Bros when they're not really tumbling yet, but the hammer does, it's because Mario's jump has only 1 attack power, meanwhile the Koopa Bros have 1 defense. If the jump had more than 1 attack power, like say Mario was using Power Jump, it would work all the same. With that being said, this is the first boss where I deemed it reasonable to have an exception with Mario being involved to at least give some partners some special credit. Because Kooper, Sushi, and Lackluster can win this fight, but only if Mario helps out with a Thunderbolt. These 3 on their own can hurt Trojan Bowser. Moreover, his attack only has 1 attack power, and Mario can block it to take 0 damage. When fighting the Koopa Bros themselves though, I think it's worth mentioning that earlier while in the Pleasant Path, I found a Thunderbolt with Mario. In Paper Mario 64, Mario is the only character that can use items in battle. And so, to make this fight possible with at least a couple more partners, I'm allowing Mario to use his Thunderbolt here, but this is the only time he's allowed to do anything for the entire fight. After that Thunderbolt, both Kooper and Lackluster can win this fight by using Power Shell and Spiny Surge a total of 3 times to do 5 damage each per Koopa Bro to beat them all. Kooper needs 10 FP, Lackluster needs at least 15. This is because despite both moves doing the same amount of damage, Spiny Surge costs 4 FP, and once again you still have to use it 3 times all the same. Sushi's a little bit different though. Her Squirt 1-hit KOs Koopa Bros when they're flipped on their backs, but 5 damage is barely enough to 1-hit KO a Koopa Bro. After 2 Squirts, there's only 2 Koopa Bros left. Squirt does only 4 damage, so instead, Sushi has to Belly Flop. This move does slip over Koopa's, meaning she's able to suppress the last couple of Koopa Bros before they're able to stack up on top of each other, which is critical, because if they're allowed to stack back up, then it's impossible for Sushi to progress the fight. After a few more belly flops though, Sushi's able to win, and as a result, she's also eligible for half credit. Unfortunately though, Parakarry wasn't quite so lucky. For most of this run, he's no different from Sushi, but here, it's really unfortunate that Skydive cannot flip over enemies, because Shell Shot just does not do enough damage. So even though he has no issue beating Trojan Bowser, he cannot close out the fight. And this leaves Bombette and Watt. Of course, Bombette has no issues actually hurting the Trojan Bowser, but she also has a notable advantage in this fight where she does not need Mario to win. Bombette's bomb immediately topples over the Koopa Bros stacked on top of each other. Moreover, her bomb attack does just enough damage to win a KO Koopa Bro when they're on their backs too. She may not be the fastest at doing damage in this fight, but what's important is the fact that she doesn't need Mario's help at all. Maybe more FP than others would need. After all, for this fight to be possible, she needs at least 20 FP max. But being the first partner to do this fight without Mario's help at all means she's also the first partner to get maximum credit possible for this fight too. Way to go, Bombette. Way to go. But even that pales in comparison to Watt's performance here. Watt already ignores defense, so Trojan Bowser was no issue for her. But the Koopa Bros and how this went was absolutely hilarious. It turns out it's not even really just a Thunderbolt being able to tumble down the Koopa Bros in one turn, but electric attacks in general. So Watt's basic attack makes it so that she doesn't need Mario's help here at all. And she's able to really take her time, like this is no struggle for her whatsoever. And good thing too, because 3 damage while it's decent this early in the game, that's still a 2 KO per Koopa Bro, and she only has enough time to KO 1 Koopa Bro before they stack back up. Once again, we have a partner that doesn't need any help at all, and once again can get maximum credit for this fight. So in summation, that's 0 points for Goombario and Bo for not being able to even hurt Trojan Bowser, 0 points for Parakarry for not being able to beat the Koopa Bros, half a point for Kooper, Lackluster, and Sushi for being able to beat the Koopa Bros with the assistance of a Thunderbolt, and 1 full point for Bombette and Watt for being able to do this fight without Mario's help at all. Lastly, there's the second encounter with Junior Troopa. His gimmick here is that he has defense for the entire fight. Once again, Goombario and Bo cannot do anything here. Next week though, something special will happen to both of these partners that will give them a very huge boost going forward. Moving on though, every other partner can do this fight just fine. Kooper, Bombette, and Parakarry do at least 1 damage with their basic attacks. And the latter 2 can spend some FP to do a lot more damage in 1 turn too. Meanwhile, Sushi's Belly Flop and Lackluster's Spiny Flip do 2 damage, and the former also has Squirt to do 4 damage per hit as well. Meanwhile, Watt doesn't even care about defense, so go figure she can do it. And just like that, the results got really shook up, huh? What do you think Chapter 2 will be like? Let me know in the comments down below. With all of this said and done, I'll see you next week for Chapter 2. So long, partners.